Hey, I'm Drew, and this is the very first Citizen Coder podcast video. Unless you're listening to this on my audio podcast, in which case, yeah, you're still listening to audio. I am here today with Ash. He goes by AmalgamAsh on YouTube. But if you're talking to him, you call him Ash. So, so Ash, I ran into you. I discovered this game engine on uh, Steam, as probably most people run into game engines or a lot of game engines, and
Mhm.
it is kind of a, uh, I guess it's sort of an RPG maker, but we can kind of get into that. And
Alright.
it's kind of the first RPG maker style engine that I've actually played around with much. But how did you get into to game programming or game making?
Well, firstly, uh, thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here. I appreciate the time and attention for sure. So game programming. I always wanted to do a couple of things. One was write. That was my very first aspiration when I was a wee lad, and that translated later when I got into video games to I want to make video games. So being, a kid, I had no idea what question to even begin to ask to know how to do that. But at some point in my adolescence, I picked up RPG Maker, the lovely pirated RPG Maker 95 version that
Nice.
those in the know about, from Don Miguel, who made it accessible to Western audiences, and found out that, wow, that was awesome, very rewarding. I could make my own game. What the heck? So that turned into finding resources, assets, sprite rips, tiles, folks who had made projects. And then I saw very quickly that somebody who had the engine might decide that they just needed to throw together a map and like some jokes and some obscene humor and then upload that as a project, and they're like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." That seems to still be a trend that continues to today.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful, but, like, it's still very much a tool for that person who's like, "Oh my god, I can make my own game, what?" And if you had any idea about, there having to be programming and asset building and painting and all of that stuff behind the scenes and thinking you could never do that, well, this shows you that, yeah, you can still do that. You just have to drag and drop things and try to make your imagination come to life. So it was at that point. And I think I was about 16 or 17 when I think I was 16 when I discovered that. And that's been 22 years ago. We won't talk about that.
Mm.
Um, I found another tool called RPG Toolkit, and that's what I kind of stuck on like glue for a long time. I had a huge project that I was going to make in that engine. I don't know what happened, but at some point I lost that project and I did not get back into RPG making stuff until about 2017,
Mm.
2018, when I found RPG Maker had been going through so many upgrades and iterations. RPG Maker MV was out, MZ was on the horizon, and MV3D was a plugin that was being created. And I had no idea what plugins were or how to use this new engine, but I fished my way through it and fished, swam, other word my way through it, and I floundered. There we go. And I figured it out, and I decided that not much had changed, and it still wasn't as good as RPG Toolkit, but it led me to look for other engines, which is kind of why I'm in the mess that I'm in today. I'm surrounded by them now.
Oh, to be surrounded by game engines.
I
Um,
did take a course on Visual Basic in 2006, and I thought, "This is gonna be the way." And
yes.
when I completed the course, I'm like, "This is not the way." So, yeah, when I say I have this much experience in coding, I can read a good amount of it, and I can even extrapolate, go through there, change some things, and, uh make it do what I would like for it to do. But once you start talking about structs and arrays and inheritance. I'm like, okay, no, I'll I'll go drag a tile onto a map.
That's fair. That's fair. Sometimes when you're just trying to make something, you don't want to deal with the code aspect for sure. Um, I had kind of a I don't know if it was a similar journey, but I got into programming actually in 2016 was when I actually decided to start trying to give it a full on go. Um, but I've my first love has always been making games, and so to this day, I'm in a coding boot camp, and you can ask all my classmates. It's all about making games, even if it's not really a game centric language. But yeah, so what kind of games do you like to make? Excuse me. What kind of games do you like to make, or do you
When you
have
say
preference?
it's all about games, like, I don't think there's something that can challenge you more. So, I mean, if you know how to make a game, you're at peak performance, man. You should be able to make whatever app the client needs at that point.
Yeah,
I
you
think they're
would
good to
think.
go if you get into gaming. Uh, Games I like to make, the ones that are most facilitated by the engines that I like to play around with. I like art. I just have a love for all things role playing and fantasy, so it'll
Mhm.
always be RPGs. Um, but there's cousin genres to that, right? Like there are adventure games where you go around talking to people, collecting items or information, and then using those items and information to unlock more areas until you get to the end. Adventure games are a lot of fun. Have an appreciation now for visual novels that I didn't have before. Been playing a lot of one playing reading. You make choices.
Yeah,
I guess you technically play read. I'm still
you
struggling
know,
with
I
how you.
I have one on my wish list that I've been meaning to buy, and it's the only visual novel that I've looked at and been like, this could be fun. But and of course, it involves giant robots because I like all
Oh, can
things.
I ask what that is?
Yeah, I can't remember, man. I'm gonna have to. Oh shit, we have
Giant robot visual novel. Come on,
we have Google here, so I'm just gonna
you're
check
gonna
it out.
Google giant robot visual novel. You're gonna find 10 more to add to your wish list.
Oh no, I'm actually gonna just go to look at my wish list. uh, the beauty of the internet. But whether or not I can find it, it's gonna be another story. Yeah, I'm always ever since I played Xenogears, I've been obsessed with giant robots.
Yeah, you
And
just name dropped one of my top favorite games of all time.
man, if I could recreate that game about 100 times, I would do it. It's the only um giant robot game that has captured my imagination, and they've just I'm
Yeah,
so sad that the creators haven't done another giant robot game. They seem more obsessed with telling the story without the giant robots so much, and I'm
I
not sure what happened, but
I think it'd be so amazing if the team that was responsible for it could get through all their licensing issues and
mhm,
lead the Xenoblade game series into that direction and finally have it end where Xenogears needed to begin. That would be such a
yeah,
huge, huge, huge thing. Very
yes,
unlikely, but huge.
yeah, very unlikely for
We see
sure.
mechs in the latest Xenoblade. We see robots. We see where things could like start getting hinted at. And that's
Oh,
like
interesting.
just that in and of itself is pretty exciting.
Maybe they're planning on it, and they've just gone and like I haven't played the Xenoblade. I have the one before that, Chronicles,
Xenosaga?
Xenosaga. Yeah, on the Switch. Is that right?
Oh, there are a couple
Um,
of Xenoblades. So,
I don't
and
think
there's
it's
a
a blade though. I think it's
Xenosaga, those were the PS2 games. I don't know if they have Switch
okay.
ports, they might.
Okay, then it's whatever. Yeah, maybe. I'll have to look. I know the guy's got like a red sword. It's like a technological looking sword.
I
Um,
am quite certain that that is Xenoblade, but
Okay, okay, then you're probably right. Maybe it's the first. Maybe it's the first one, and they did like a remaster or something.
they did do a remaster. Yeah,
Okay, that's what it was, and then they released it on Switch. So that's what I have. Okay, all right.
I have it, and at some point I'll be starting it up again to try to actually play it seriously again because I have
Yeah.
not yet played it all the way through.
Have you played the second two?
No,
Oh, okay, all right.
I've played Xenoblade Chronicles, the one with Nia, the cat
Mhm.
girl, but only for like a couple of hours. And then I was like,
Mm,
okay, I would love to finish the first one. I would love to start and then finish the first one. The
yeah.
thing is, I've only got room on my plate for like one big game at a time, and then like a
Hmm.
whole bunch of casual games I can play, jumping in and out. And my big game right now is Elden Ring, and I've spent 120, 130 hours on it, and
Whew,
now I'm at a point in the game
massive.
where I needed help, so I looked up help, and it's like, oh, this marks the halfway point in the game, and I'm like, you've got to be freaking kidding me! Are you
Oh man.
serious? There's no way. Oh well, that's where my time's gonna be.
Oh, yeah. I tried Elden Ring a little bit. Um and I don't know why I didn't play it any more than that.
Are you a Dark Souls fan?
No, see, never really played Dark Souls. I and I don't know why. Like everybody talks about them. I had a bunch of friends at work that tried to get me to pick them up, and I just haven't really. Dark Souls, um, is too dark.
That's fair, and
I
and they're challenging for the sake of being challenging.
Right, right. I tend to be sucked in by story more than anything. And so if there's not a lot of like story happening, I'm probably not as interested. Um although the the last one you mentioned, what was it? What was the game? What's the latest game again? I'm drawing a blank cuz it's early and my coffee
I
hasn't
know
kicked in.
Xenoblade Chronicles is the latest in that.
No, no, no. The Dark Souls
Oh, Elden Ring?
series. Yeah, Elden Ring.
Well,
Yeah, sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Um that one I when I saw that coming out, I was like, "Wow, that looks amazing. I'll probably will play that." And I probably still will at some point. I've got a bunch of games in my list, and I'm not getting through them as quick as I would like anymore.
No,
Um,
that's a real issue.
it is a real issue.
Time being, scarce.
Yeah, yeah. Libraries of games are so easy to build now with everybody giving away games. So I have an Epic Game store account, and the only thing I ever do on there is get the free games every week. That's it. Um, so I've probably built up, I don't know, maybe almost 40 games now.
Ah, so you have RPG in a box?
I
Oh,
do. I just picked that up. Yeah.
excellent. Very good.
Yeah. So I'm definitely going to toy around with that a little bit.
We've only got a
Try it
few
out.
hours left, if that, before that comes off, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. So if you're interested in RPG in a box, grab it quick. Epic Game Store, go. um, yeah, that actually looks pretty good. Have you played around with it much?
Oh yeah, I've had it for a while. I haven't had it long enough to get good enough at it to be confident enough to help people in like the Discord communities and stuff whenever they have issues. I'm
Hmm.
only really good at one or two engines as far as like that goes. If it's a
Mm,
Smile game builder or RPG developer Bakin, I will generally be able to jump in and answer whatever issue it is you're having. RPG in a box, I need to spend more time with. I've even done a couple of tutorial videos on it, but I've more
mm,
than that, I've played other people's works on the channel.
mm. Okay. And is that just random stuff you've found people making, or people send you stuff to play?
I go hunt for it and I find it, which it's usually all in one spot because the creator of the engine makes a valiant effort to go and collect all of the works. that are made with it, and compile
Mm.
them into a list so people can find it and see kind of where the engine's been, what it has been able to do, what it can do now, etc.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. I'm gonna send you a link. I think this is it for the giant robot visual novel game. Um,
Sierra
it's
Office.
it's called something space strategy, but I saw robots in the trailer, and I was like, I'm in.
Oh, nice.
uh, yeah. Um, so I've kind of had this long running idea where I wanted to make a game that's very similar to Xenogears, and in terms of story. And I do a ton of pixel art. Some of them have been giant robots,
Nice.
and so when I saw RPG Developer Bakin, I was like, okay, that actually looks like kind of how um, the Xenogears engine worked. In that it's uh, 3D, but you can use 2D sprites in it.
Yes.
Kind of out of the box, and
Yes.
yeah, that sucked me in a little bit.
That'll do it. That's like top tier for I would say our age range to see that and be like, "Oh, I remember."
Yeah, for sure.
Wild Arms 2,
Uh,
did you play Wild Arms?
Wild Arms. No, I think I don't know.
Or were you big in the, PlayStation RPG
Wait, Wild
97,
Arms.
98, 99?
That actually rings a bell. I'm having to Google it because it's been a while. Um, let's see. I think I actually have played that, but I don't recall it as much.
Wild Arms 2 is the one that I've played. I played Wild Arms 1 for, like, an hour, and I'm like, "This is nowhere near as good." But I need to, uh, go back and actually give that one a
Um,
chance. I was unfair to
yeah,
it.
I might have to check out the emulator scene
Wild Arms
because
2,
this one.
you have already said Xenogears, Star Ocean 2 or Star Ocean Second Story is one of my favorite.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites. Yeah.
Absolutely loved that. Loved the soundtrack, loved the gameplay. The combat was always fun. Like I could grind and
Hmm.
never get tired. I think that might be the game. I'm just now realizing that ruined me on turn-based combat for the rest of my life because
Oh,
I cannot stand turn-based combat, which might sound strange coming from
interesting.
somebody who just said they love RPGs,
Yeah, I thought that was kind of the RPG staple.
but it's
Um,
so
I don't remember the combat in that.
there was a lot of
Um,
running and hitting. When you push a button, your character actually hits. That sort of
oh
thing.
wow.
Really fun.
I'm gonna have
Instant,
to,
but action, action, action.
I'm going to have to watch some gameplay footage on that because I don't like. I remember Star Ocean, the second story, as being my favorite from that group of games, but I don't remember the combat so much as I do the story. um,
What else? Valkyrie
but
Profile, 2D sprites. It's only 3D once you go out into like the world map. The rest of it, I think, is 2D parallaxing. That's a beautiful game.
the
Also,
first one,
PlayStation.
or there's a series of them.
There's a series, but I don't think that there's anything that quite holds up to just Valkyrie Profile. I think there's a tactics game on like the Nintendo DS, I think, and then there's Valkyrie Profile Lenneth that I think just dropped for like PS4. That one actually looks it looks really really nice, but I don't know if it's going to play nice or we're talking about SquareSoft versus Square Enix and
Hmm.
that's a, that's a conversation.
Damn it, man! You're making me take notes because I'll forget these otherwise. Star Ocean
But good
and
examples
Valkyrie
of
Profile.
beautiful 2D sprites on 3D backgrounds. And yeah, you're right. Bakin is a good engine for that. I still think Smile
Hmm.
Game Builder is a great engine for that sort of thing too. It's more limited, but it's more beginner friendly.
How's it limited? I actually had that on my wish list for a very long time, and I think it was because of the whole 3D thing, and I just wasn't. ready to dabble. Um, and then I think I was looking through my wish list and I was checking it out, and then I don't know if I think maybe they had a link to their new one,
Yeah.
and I was like, ooh, and then I was like, well, it's open beta basically. I know they call it uh,
Early access.
early access, but it's
You're
basically
you're
open
right
beta.
though, yeah. So,
Um,
uh it was programmed more or less, and I'm the only affiliation that I have is one, my videos and content, and me just trying to aggressively cover every square inch I can of that. But I also do own the Discord community, which was officialized this year by Smile Boom. So I've got that going for me too.
oh
But
yeah,
these are just
wait,
my own views here.
stop.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Eric.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. I had a question, but I'll wait.
Okay,
I like interrupting my guests. It's
it's
fun.
all good.
Go.
Uh, so my views here, are just my own. I'm not privy to anything secretive, anything like that. But the difference between them, SGB was programmed in 2016 on a
Hmm.
32-bit in a 32-bit environment, and I believe one of the high people in the company was a former employee of the folks, or a former team member of the folks who made one of the previous iterations of RPG Maker. I believe quite up there.
Mm.
So there were a lot of similarities, but it seemed to be made as sort of a not a serious, flexible, powerful tool, more like, I don't want to
Hmm.
say a toy, but more like a just a very simple, hey, you can make RPGs too, and you don't have to know how to code. And it lives up to that, like 100%. It is exactly that. But the response to that was, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we do the other? Oh, this engine would be so cool if only we could do A, B, and C. And so the team are like, in my opinion, huh, uh, maybe we could add those features. And so you're looking at something that's had these features added to make it be able to play with the big boy. There's not really any big boys out there. There's Unity, Unreal, and Godot, and
Yeah.
no RPG engine is going to compare to those in a fair way. And they won't be able to
Sure.
compare to
Yeah.
RPG engines in a fair way based on the context and perspective. But uh, Bakin is the, okay, we're going to start out being the serious, overwhelming, very powerful, very precise control tool. So, in that regard, Bakin can overwhelm you with the settings that it has because it has a lot of power. And it is also in
Hmm.
early access. So, when you go playing around with the settings that are available to you, you might be able to break something, which is fine. And if you
Mm.
do, please
Yeah.
bug report that. Please tell Smile Boom about it so they can fix it, because that's what that's for and why that do. But Smile Game Builder, you should be able to jump in there, get your feet wet, and make a Hello World game very quickly, very, very quickly,
Mm.
and slowly start to put more things in, full battle system. I mean, whatever you want to do, all that stuff is templated and it's already there for you to just drag and drop. Limitations,
Oh, interesting.
it's a 32-bit engine. There's not like advanced lighting, no
Mm.
spotlights, point lights, anything like that. There's some particle effects.
Hmm.
You can't, it doesn't support effects here. So nobody's really been able to make good particle effects for Smile Game Builder yet. You've got a very limited amount of like status effects and elements. I think there are 6 total attributes, as they call them in Bakin. Smile Game Builder, I think they're elements, but you've got like holy, fire, dark, and you can change those and make them weak to whatever other one you want and things like that. But you can have 6, and that is it, no more. Despite the years of, can we please have more added? Like Pokemon has 16. If you just add 10 more, we're golden, or
We
18
said.
or whatever. But nope, nope, you don't. You just get the 6. And then,
Weird.
like, there are just some other things. Like, if you're importing a 3D model, which it's expected that you're a total beginner and newbie at 3D models, so this is probably
Hmm.
fine.
Hmm.
You can have one material per object, and it only supports just
Mm.
what they might call diffuse or base color textures. So you're not going to have anything too fancy. But all in all, it'll look like a PlayStation 1 PSX RPG when you're done with it. And you can have 2D
Mhm.
sprites in a 3D background. And you can do so at higher resolutions than the PlayStation had. So at the end of the
Yeah.
day, you can even do like a PS2 if you are
Mhm.
ambitious. I've seen some examples of games that look like they could have been PS2 tech demos. Bakin is more like a
Nice.
PS3 almost immediately, but you can do the
Oh.
other games that way too. You can make your 2D sprite on 3D background game in Bakin quite easily as well.
Oh, interesting. Huh. So the I guess the limitations, I mean, maybe some of that'll change over time depending on what they do with Bucking. Um, so how long has it been in early access, and how long have you been playing with it?
Well, Bakin's been it was just released like two less than 2 months ago as of today.
Oh wow. Okay, so I got it like um mm, pretty pretty soon
Yeah,
after. I
it
guess
got
it
a,
was.
a hard and
I thought it was a
fast,
lot.
hey, it's out now kind of release.
Hmm.
Smile
Hmm.
Game Builder came out in 2016. I started playing with it around 2019, joined the Discord, got familiar with the community. Uh, Bakin, I actually got to beta test for just a couple of months. I want to say 3 months before its official release.
Oh.
So that's the extent of my experience. But I have it open all the time because I want to make tutorials and make sure that people have a resource so that it can start off being more well documented than SGB was. It already is more well documented now, but
Hmm.
there's a ton of things that people would love to get into. And judging just by the community interactions in the Discord and the Steam discussions, and it would be good if those things could be covered as soon as possible so people can start building systems and stuff that act like their favorite games.
Yeah, for sure. How did you speaking of the Discord, how did you wind up with the official Discord? Like that's pretty awesome.
Well, long story short, our the administration team consisted of basically three people. One owner. It was all community fan made, unofficial. Just hey, here's a place to talk about this game engine. And the owner was Companion Wolf, who has something like 50 or 60 tutorial videos on YouTube about Smile Game Builder. It's like the
Mm,
foremost
hmm.
authority.
I think I've seen them.
And Dras Ray and Motzi, who are both of the developers and slash artists for Alterium Shift, which is coming out. That was made in Smile Game Builder. Demo available now and post processed in Unity. And uh, Mr. Wolf got to a point where he had decided it might be time to focus on some other projects. And he asked his administration team if either one of them wanted ownership of the server. They said, no, we don't have time. So he asked me, and rest is history. The Smile Boom staff, or at least one or two of the staff, notably Sana, she was always present in the old Discord because it was one of the community Discords for a tool you make, hey, and hanging out and occasionally answering questions that people might have if they were more advanced beyond just like community things like will this tool ever get X feature, my game crashed when I did Y thing, what can we do? And it, as a rep of Smileboom, she'd be like, hey, send me the project, email it to me, or thanks, we'll look into that right away. And in this way, the community and the company kind of had this symbiotic, yeah, relationship where
Yeah,
one
yeah.
could make the tool better by looking at the feedback in the other area, even though it is a team of Japanese developers. And I believe their market is bigger to the Japanese demographic.
Hmm.
Um, they've been able to do a lot of things considering their global audience. And so it wasn't that long at all after I accepted the ownership of that Discord and started working on a couple of uh, small non destructive changes that Smile Boom was like, hey, one, do you want to beta test Bakin? To which I'm like, it's not even a question. And two, a little bit after that, uh, hey, we got our Bakin Steam page up. Can we link to this Discord and call this the official Discord community? And of course, we're like, that's not even a question either. Yes, of course. So changed some roles around, changed a couple of channels, made some more polished rules, and we're at where we are today. But we're still progressing. I'm still working to try to make that community more involved and active, and I try to spend as much time as I can in there. So
Sure. That's probably one of my favorite discords at this
awesome,
point. Um, and I mean, you know how Discord is. There's like
easy
loads
to
and
join,
loads of
hard to leave.
communities. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I have left some of them because, you know, just not using them anymore. Not really. Um, don't really get involved in a lot of the communities. I think that's might be one of the. Um, it's it's always nice to come in and see chatter, or if you have questions, you can get questions answered in communities. But um, like everything has a community. So I've bought some Udemy courses that have pretty big. I don't know if you're familiar
Oh
with
yeah,
Udemy at all.
I've got a
Oh,
couple of
okay,
courses
all
I
right,
completed on Udemy, so nice.
nice. Yeah. So there's some communities there, and if I'm not doing the course anymore, I finally just leave. But yeah, Bakin, the Bakin Discord has definitely been one of my favorites. I'm always looking at the screenshots and the videos that people are posting. Those are
Mine
always
too.
fun.
It's one of my favorites too.
You have no choice. You are tied. You can't ever leave.
Technically.
I think. Yeah. Um. But yeah. So, what are your game building plans? Do you have a big project you're working on? Is that
Oh yeah, we got a few going on.
talk to me? Tell me the
So
deets.
all right, I have so many that I kind of forget. I know I've got a list right now of projects because I'm trying to get into a routine in order to spend a little bit of time on each one and actually give it some fair attention throughout the week before I have to go back to work. And
Mm, should we talk about work?
I don't want to. No, we could talk about work. My day job is not what I do on YouTube. I wish it was, and one day
Sure.
I'm doing what I
One
can
day
to
it will.
make that happen. But right now, it is not. But I am fortunate to be blessed with a weekend job, which is also full time. I work 36 hours a
Oh,
week,
that's
3 days
crazy.
a week, 12 hours each day. And I have no time to do anything when I come home except make sure that
Hmm.
nobody's choked each other out in any of the discords I'm in and
Sure.
shower, go to bed. Uh, but the other 4 days, more than enough time to build and create and make stuff and help others do that. So besides my video stuff, video game work, my wife and I are currently making an homage game in Bakin to
Mm.
sort of an homage to Hero Quest, 1989 dungeon crawling tabletop board game made by Milton Bradley and Games Workshop, and we just kind of wanted to have that dingy dungeon crawling feel. Select a class, go through a
Yeah.
dungeon. Each room is kind of random. I think we might make it into something like a procedurally generated thing, but she doesn't want to get like
Oh,
too
that could be fun.
long serious with it, so we'll make a short project and maybe something that's replayable if I can help it because I love replayability, and then we'll be done with that. Uh,
Yeah, and you could always
yeah,
expand it later.
on the back burner, I had a game which I called Project Spectrum for a while and then changed the name to Planet Spectrum. It's a story
Mm.
of alien beings who are made. They're
Oh,
somewhat made of paint. They're humanoids, but they're all single color skin and stuff, and each one's named after one of the colors that Bob Ross used on his most popular paint palette. So you have the
that's
main
awesome.
characters who are Phthalo Blue and Phthalo Green. That's your boy and girl sibling set, and you can play as either one of them. And you will meet Lieutenant Cadmium, Cadmium Yellow, and Doctor Sap Green, as well as the ship's AI Titanium White. You can go play that game now. It's on itch.io, amalgamash.itch.io. Shameless plug. It's free.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah.
Nine
Plug
little
away.
environments. I made it as sort of a benchmark. So you get your hub, some story, and then you've got 9 different areas you can go to, and each one is just a puzzle. You just solve the puzzle, and then there's kind of a layer 2 puzzle hidden in that environment. If you can solve the advanced puzzle, you'll get the special item that you need to bring back to Dr. Sap. So I lost my project file for that, but then I found an earlier one. So I just
Oh.
need to get the motivation to go in there, bring it up to speed, and finish it. I would love to do that though
Mm.
at some point, and it'll just be a free project that I finished. Maybe I'll get it ported onto stuff because I would love to have a published game on platforms out there besides Windows.
Yeah. Yeah. What are your what are your plans with Bakin as far as games go? Have you started any large projects on it, or were some of these on it
Um,
already?
Planet Spectrum was made in Smile Game Builder, and one of my plans for
Mm.
that overall is to make a version of it in every game engine that I have slash find. So we'll have like a 2D Planet
Nice.
Spectrum, we'll have a RPG in a box Planet Spectrum, and that overall I will call that Project Spectrum. So just trying to benchmark and see how easy it is to get different systems of collection and mini games and interactions and stuff in different engines.
Mm.
And I always want to release the project file next to it, so anybody who's interested can see how I did it. But as far as like big plans, I have two large things that I want to do. One is a game that I've been developing in Notepad for like the last
Mm.
since 20. It's been about 3 or 4 years now. That's my most ambitious
Mm.
project. It's the project that I want to have entire class systems, farming elements, romance system, gathering, crafting, multiple ways of playing, so you can just play your way stress free, or you can attempt to challenge it. And I haven't found the engine yet for that. Everything's got
That's
something
fair.
in the way from me making that as is without compromise. So when I have a
Hmm.
chance to sit and really think about what I'm willing to compromise on, that will cause me to consider all of the engines. So far, Bakin is the closest one, but I don't have a workflow in Bakin that's
Hmm.
very fast or rewarding just yet. So I set that aside. It's in Notepad,
Sure.
continually getting worked on. And the more games I play in real life, the more I add to that because I'm like, I really like the system in this game. I'm gonna steal it. Um, the other one that's
Stealing is the
that
highest form of flattery,
is,
I've been told.
I'm sure somebody said that. Uh, Oscar the Grouch. The other project, the one that's actually going to be done in Bakin at this point, is one that my wife and I are working on. Um, we're still figuring out how we're going to do the core gameplay loops. I think it's going to be an adventure
Mm.
game. I
Hmm.
don't really want it to have like RPG turn-based combat, but if I can get it to where
Sure.
the battles in the game are drawn out, sort of choose your own adventure type sequences, I think that would be awesome. But I'm still
Mm.
thinking about how to implement that. But it's going to be a dark
Interesting.
story that is intended for a mature audience. It has to do with a
Fair.
age old ambiguous battle between uh, Queen Agape and the demigod Eros, and it, you're a follower of the Church of Agape, who the world kind of either hates or loves based on whether or not they believe one of the two legends. One of the legends is that Agape summoned the demigod, and through a
Mm.
very, what's the word, just a terrible ritual, enabled him to have power that's corrupted a large portion of the world. And the other one is that she was a queen who sacrificed herself to stop him from gaining any more power. So we have this, you're always questioning your own motives while you play. And it'll more or less be an adventure game with dating elements because it's very important that we have
Mm.
dating in this particular game of a kind. So
That sounds like fun. That sounds like a lot of fun. Um, you mentioned your work. I actually have a similar schedule where I work 32 hours, but get paid for roughly 38. I mean,
Yes.
you know, with all the overtime and or not overtime, but shift
Yes.
differentials and whatnot. And of course, my job is not game or
Yet.
programming related yet either. Um, but it will. But that gives me, um, 4.5 ish days where I can because I work
Yes.
overnights, so I work like Friday night into Saturday, Saturday night into
Yeah.
Sunday, and then Sunday night into Monday morning.
That is
It's
very similar.
kind of a weird shift. Yeah, yeah, it's so funny. Um, and yeah, that gives me plenty of time during the week. Right now it's been taken up with learning this programming language called Elixir, um, which um, it's a functional programming language. If you don't know much about it, it um, it was made to run on this virtual machine, kind of like Java, where um, but I guess the difference is it's made for high concurrency, so lots and lots and lots of connections at one time, um, which most programming languages and virtual machines can't really handle well out of the box. And so they have to do a lot of finagling to get any kind of
Okay.
concurrency to work well. Um, but but yeah, let me think. I had a couple other questions, but uh, so how long you been married? Do you have kids? You have a I, I'll go first. I've been married
Nice.
for 20 years. I have one kid. We took us 16 years to have him, and so he's
He's going to
six
keep you young
six
for
years
a
old.
long time.
Uh, yeah, yeah, he's a blast. He's a huge gamer, of course, because dad games, and he's big into Roblox right now, and lots of stuff on the Switch, Mario. I mean, you name it on the Switch. Well, maybe not you name it because he doesn't get to play adult games like
No,
Doom
no, no.
or
Maybe the Roblox version of Doom.
um yeah, yeah, that's he has been playing kind of like the little zombie
Yeah.
games on Roblox, running
Oh yes.
around,
I'm
getting
I'm
chased and
I'm
stuff.
somewhat aware of the Roblox madness. I
Have you
have,
played any Roblox?
and it's there's a lot of stuff on there. There's a ton of games. Like,
Dude.
for folks who don't understand it, Roblox is a
Mm-hmm.
platform upon which you can join as a creator and make your own games. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not as simple as drag and drop for sure. If you've got
Mm-mm.
experience in Lua
Definitely not.
and in 3D, you can definitely make some stuff. But there is some world building and stuff you can get into. Uh, there is a lot to get into, from really simple games to um, more involved, in depth games, and games that don't have microtransactions, games that have a ton of microtransactions and seem to make it a point to make that the point of their existence. Um, and then you got your character that you can bring in, and you can either be forced to be an avatar that looks a particular way, or you can customize your avatar by buying clothes and stuff. No, I our son does a lot of Roblox playing, so we've definitely
Oh, nice.
uh, spent some money on Robux. But to answer that, yeah, I have
Yeah.
uh, one son. He'll be 14 in just about a week, and
Mm,
I've got as
awesome.
many years in marriage. So 14, that is. So we are, yeah, it's awesome.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
I don't,
Awesome. Yeah.
I mean it when I say it'll keep you young.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, kids will definitely do that. And I don't uh everybody worries about socialization with only children, but it's Is your son like really? Is he really outgoing
He
or?
can be.
Um,
He's pretty
mm,
well balanced, I'd say, because he can deal
hmm
with just about anybody. Kids, younger kids. He plays with younger kids. Tries to get on their level. Have fun with them. Same age, knows how to converse. Older teens, knows to kind of converse a little bit. Maybe leave well enough alone. Uh, Adults, zero problems approaching. Socialization, just fine.
that's
He
awesome.
much better than I was at his age, actually, and some days much better than I am.
Hmm
So absolutely not worried there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the same. Like everybody was like, "Oh, only child," we do a homeschooling. We're doing it's called a virtual academy, where it's through the state, but I live in a rural area, so we do have schools, but we opted to try this out and see how it is, and it's been pretty cool. So he does like a live class like a couple times a week, um, and then some kind of like video classes and other stuff like that. But yeah, he's very much like outgoing, and has no problem interacting with either kids or grown-ups, or we'll be at the park, and he'll either play with the kids
Yep,
or
yep,
he'll even talk to the
yep.
parents. It's
Exactly.
kind of
High
funny.
five. I homeschool as well.
um
So
oh,
similar
nice.
similar things going on. I was actually homeschooled. My wife went to public school,
I was
and
too.
we actually agreed after talking
Hmm
about where we live and situation and stuff. We also live in a rural area. Um, we're like, yeah,
Oh.
okay, we'll try homeschooling. That might be the better option. We'll at least try it, and we've been
hmm
doing it ever since. It's been working out just fine. I would say we can provide good
yeah,
examples
yeah,
to those who are skeptical.
right, definitely. It's not bad. It really isn't. My wife, she acts as kind of his coach, so she works with him in the mornings, with class. And I don't know if we'll do it full time. After he gets older, we'll just kind of play it by ear and see how things go. But at least as of right now, it's. But like you said, I was homeschooled too, and she went to public school. Oh, that's funny that there's actually a lot of parallels.
Nice.
um, but but yeah, so and that was one thing that we had kind of talked about and agreed on, that we would do the homeschool thing. And um if we do decide to public school at some point, at least in the area we're in, won't be, the schools are pretty good. um Not a lot of horror stories from our
Uh,
schools, but it's I like.
I can't
Go ahead, you
relate
got something to say it.
here,
Just
but no, that's good though. That's really
sure.
really good.
Well, I don't know where you live either.
Our environment here just it could be much better. It could facilitate much better. And I don't know if there's just a
Hmm
lack of trying, or like if it's just not worth it to the people who could
hmm
be trying harder. And I understand that, but I mean,
hmm
that's why we homeschool. So
Sure. I like that we kind of have hands on with this curriculum, so we can kind of see you know what's being taught, you know that kind of thing. We actually get to see how he's being taught. Most of the time you send your kid off to public school. I did a very small stint in public school when I was 15. Parents went through a little, they went through divorce, and like, what do we do with the kid? Oh, throw him in public school. So, that was a shock, but I did get to see um, how public schools worked, and not a lot gets done in public schools. It's not,
right,
maybe not all of
right,
them. I'm
right,
not
right,
gonna
right,
generalize too much, um, but I definitely feel like I learned more in homeschool, because the
right.
focus is all on the
You get
learning
to
and not
master.
so
You
much
get the
on the.
time that you need to master a subject. instead of just being handed a paper and
Mhm.
being told, "Well, I hope you get 7 out of 10 because that'll mean you pass and we never have to
Yeah.
speak of this again." That might be one of the more
Mhm.
jaded
Mhm.
things that I have to say, or one of the more jaded perspectives that I have. But I mean, we get to go over material over and over, not necessarily repeat it, but go over material with our son. And if he masters, half of it, we'll get to go more in depth on the other half instead of just saying, okay, well, you earned the passing grade, we're done. We can say, well, let's actually understand this. And
Mhm.
I get the honor of math and science, and the wife gets uh, geography, history, other social studies. We kind of split um, literature, English, spelling, that sort of thing. Always have.
Mhm.
We go by books that we've bought, but we've bought books from several different series, and sometimes we'll compare and contrast and find
Mhm.
that, huh, that's weird. This ninth grade book's content is the exact same as this seventh grade book's content from this other publisher. Sometimes that works out because you're like, okay, my
Oh,
kid's at
weird.
a ninth grade level on this subject. And then sometimes you're like, oh, or is he behind?
Mhm.
What's going on? Is he advanced or is this a no child left
Right.
behind?
Sure.
So,
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting because we haven't really played around with curriculum books yet, and I've been curious. The virtual academy we're doing
yeah,
basically sends us all the curriculum, so um, we don't have to, we don't have to buy books or anything like that. They even sent him a
nice.
laptop to use. Um, but obviously, when I was homeschooled, I think my parents did a lot of like buying of curriculum and trying different things, different books. Um, I don't know that
Yeah.
they ever settled on any one thing. Um, I don't know what state you're in. I'm in
I'm your
Arkansas,
northern
and
neighbor.
uh,
I was actually born in Little
all
Rock.
right, nice. Uh, oh,
That's
cool.
neither
All
here
right,
nor there, but I
that's
just thought
awesome.
I'd throw that
Yeah,
out.
that's only I mean, yeah, it's only about a couple hours from where I'm at. I'm up towards the border of Missouri and Arkansas. Um, but yeah, so uh, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, the curriculum. Um, so my parents, they tried a lot of different books and stuff, and we haven't had to do that, but so far it's been so this is I'd say this is kind of like a public school virtually
Yeah,
more than anything else. And it's so far it's been good, and the curriculum's been solid, and the teaching methods have been good. He's learning a bunch. He can already read. For maybe not every last big word, but kind of seeing him go from zero to being able to read me small books,
oh,
is
yeah.
is pretty awesome. That's always fun, and it's yeah. Um, but I totally I totally get where you're coming from as far as like trying to find good solid curriculum, and um but it is weird that you'll pick up a couple different books and it's the same stuff but it's for different
I've seen
grades. Like,
memes
that's pretty
where
odd.
that there's, like, a teacher in front of a chalkboard, and it says in the text, it says, "Don't worry about this part of the book, we'll go over it next year." And then it's the exact same picture, same teacher, chalkboard, and the text says, "You should have studied this last year, so you'll have no problem with it being on the test." So I don't think it's isolated to homeschooling, but it definitely probably occurs more when you
Probably not.
switch between different curriculums and schools. Because I'm sure if you just stick with one, they
Hmm.
have a plan, and that should make sense. I would hope, but sometimes it's about.
Yeah.
I mean, you may find that it is necessary, if you're out there homeschooling anybody, to switch curriculums at least in one or more subjects because of just learning style. The dummies books that got so famous. for all their
Mhm.
subjects. They exploded, and it's
Yeah.
like they have so many different writers now, but they're not all going to be actually like at the same level that they started out as when they were for dummies. I picked up trigonometry, or no, calculus for dummies. Like, maybe this will help me learn calc. Nope, completely lost. Page one, they started throwing out all kinds of crap, and I could smell the marketing, and
Mm.
that's something that I hate. So I skimmed the first part of the book. I'm like, that, nope, this isn't going to be what does it for me. So, I mean, someone who's a really, really good
Yeah.
teacher at one thing may not be a really good teacher at another. And that's when it's, in my opinion, perfectly appropriate to
Mhm.
find a different source, at least just for that. So we have, well, I was just going to
Yeah,
say, we have
it's
like
Oh, go
as
ahead.
many learning styles in the world as we have teaching styles. So,
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. I've definitely found, just through my own personal experience of experimentation and trying to find, um, something that could teach me to learn, especially with programming, because it's if you spend any time on Twitter, it always looks like programming is like the easiest thing to learn. Like you should be able to learn it in 6 weeks or 2 weeks, or or just follow this roadmap. And there's you know they list like 20 different technologies, like you're gonna grasp them all in a small, like 2 month stint, and then go off and get your first programming language. And that may work for some people, but that definitely has not been my case. I've spent more time in more programming languages, probably, and experimenting with Udemy courses and trying to figure out what makes the
hmm
knowledge stick in my own head. And it's been kind of a process of read a little bit. I mean, I've watched some videos and stuff, and like right now, I've got an instructor, so um, I've got live instruction. Um, Also reading, things like that, um, through the curriculum. But it's what's really probably made stuff stick is just like, read a little bit and then do a little bit and then read a little bit more and do a little bit more. There has to be, at least for me, kind of a there has to be some doing, like take the
yeah,
thing you
you
just
have to
learned
apply it.
and then do it a bunch. You know, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, make a
and not just
routine.
once or twice. You know, yeah. If you're not applying the concepts over and over and over again,
Yeah,
stuff just isn't going to stick.
unfortunately,
Um,
I think I'm at a point where I'm starting to just barely touch on that use it or lose it. So I can get introduced to something,
mhm.
learn it pretty well. If the teaching is right, if we mesh, like, all right, cool. And then
Mhm.
if
Right.
I don't
If you
keep up
mesh.
with it,
Yeah.
gone, flushed out. Now the next time I learn it, I'll be like, okay, I remember this. But so it's kinda like riding a bicycle, but I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna be able to wake up, go to my PC, and start programming, even if I learned Visual Basic, and even if I learned the same concepts when I took C# in college, uh, yeah, I can't.
Mhm.
So, one thing that I would like to do, I think I'd like to do it, is learn JavaScript, or yeah, JavaScript.
Mhm.
And I've tried to learn that using, I think it's called Grasshopper. It's either Grasshopper or Cricket, just an app. Grasshopper. Yep. And
Grasshopper.
it was
There's an
just
app on the phone.
kind of
Yeah, called
drag and
Grasshopper.
drop
Yeah.
these little bits of code. Uh, and I got far along in
Interesting.
that, and I can't remember any of it now. I think that was just, it might have been the year before last.
Mhm.
It might have been last year, actually. Actually, it might have been last year, because I'm remembering I was on night shift, and I was doing that out of desperation to get any more experience on my resume so I could get out of my situation. But I'm out of
Mhm.
that situation either way. It doesn't matter now.
Sure.
But yeah, JavaScript, that's used by the RPG Maker engines. C# is used by Bakin.
Mm-hmm.
If you can use either of those, then
Yeah,
the other one probably wouldn't be hard to learn at all. It's just translating the experience you have into like what minor syntax differences there might be. And then you should be able to, as long as you have the
sure.
references, make plugins. And
Yeah. I would say C sharp is probably if I was going to learn one of the two, I would learn C sharp.
oof,
JavaScript to me is just a big pile of trash.
I'm not
Sorry, all you JavaScripters.
not aware enough to know
I'll get flamed. I'm gonna get
why.
flamed. That's just it's oh man, it's sort of like okay, so they wrote the language in 2 weeks flat. Um, so there's a lot of issues with that, in that it's very cobbled together. Um, Somebody made an analogy, and I'm trying to remember what it was, but basically it was kind of like building something in JavaScript. Uh, I can't remember. It basically had to do with like taking a piece of paper and being like, "Ta-da!" Balling it up. um, it's it's kind of a mash of stuff, and it's not. It's the thing everybody
Okay.
does because it works in the web. So that's the reason it gets used. It's not because it's nice to use or easy to use. It's because it works in the web. Um, and that's the only reason that people flock to it, because as of right now, there's been this huge push, learn to code kind of thing, and um, the front end is generally an easier place to get involved because CSS and HTML are really fairly easy to pick up, and neither of those are programming per
I'm getting
se.
flashbacks of trying to learn CSS in
um,
college with my pre HTML5 knowledge.
yeah.
I'm like, crap,
Oh, for
why
real.
does this
Oh man,
exist? Why is this a
that
thing?
brutal.
What
Br-
I used to be able
exactly.
to do whatever I wanted in
It's so
HTML.
brutal.
Why? Now I gotta
HTML5 is a
learn
lot easier to
CSS
use. I will
and
say that.
Java
It's
script.
it's yeah. JavaScript, yeah. Uh, and that's why a lot of frameworks like Ruby on Rails and the one I'm using, Phoenix, um, they try to minimize the uh, the amount of JavaScript you have to
I see.
touch to get something done. Um, yeah, they definitely try. Some of them use a little. There's a little JavaScript framework that lets you do like animations and stuff really easy, without having to kind of roll your
Okay.
own. That's why jQuery was so popular for so long, because it was writing JavaScript without the headache of the syntax and the sprawl that writing JavaScript
I see.
script
Yeah,
becomes.
it's not something that I would have
Um,
any experience in at this point. I just had uh my
yeah.
a couple of really, really small, like, snippet type projects that would never run on their own, but were just part of larger things, like, "How do you make this?" in C# sharp in college, and then the
Hmm. Right.
uh, one application that I was to make front to back, which was still small, but had that could run by itself if you deployed it, and that's all gone. I just figured if it's your first programming language, though, you won't be cognizant of all of that, will you? You'll just be like, that'll just color how you feel about programming, which I
Hmm.
guess is worse. Ugh, programming sucks because it's hard and it's really
Right.
messy.
Right.
It just doesn't click. Well, no, you just started with the wrong language. I guess
Hmm.
does that
Right.
happen? Oh man.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Totally. That happened for me. Yeah. I tried to learn JavaScript over and over again, and I finally gave up. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to try a different language.
Okay.
And to date, I've probably tried maybe a dozen. I usually joke and say
Yeah.
I've tried every last programming language on the market. Um, I've definitely looked at the vast majority of them, and I've probably dabbled in a large majority of them just to try them out and
I
see if I
oh,
liked
go
them,
ahead.
see if they clicked. Um, oh, I was going to say Java was the one that I'll say Java is the one that clicked, but it's not due to necessarily the language, partially, but more because
There you
the
go.
course I found clicked with
Yeah.
me in terms of the
That's
teaching style.
that's what I like
That
to
was
hear.
the thing that grabbed me. The Yeah, um, and I took me a while to realize that's what I was looking for
Yeah,
was
that's important.
how do I learn?
That's
What
extremely easy to overlook,
makes something
but it
click to
is
me?
important.
Hmm. Yeah, it really is. And everybody blames the course or the teacher, but that's not. A lot of it boils down to how do
Yep.
you learn? Maybe you just don't learn in the style that he teaches. Maybe you learn in a different way and you just haven't found that way yet. And so you gotta look. Um, I bought uh, maybe 30 plus Udemy courses, different languages, different teachers, just trying to find one that kind of like uh, grabbed me enough to make me stick with it and where stuff would click. Um, and the only one I found was this Java course, and it was because
Yeah.
it was super exercise heavy. Like he would teach the concept, and then he'd give you like 20 exercises using that same concept over and over and over. And then they just built on each other. The next one you would use the prior concept and the one he just taught. And I did that over probably over a 6 month period
Oh,
when
nice.
I was working in the oil field. Um, yeah, I had nothing to do in the small amount of downtime that I had. Um, or if for some reason the rig had to shut down because it,
Yeah.
you know, there was a weather related stuff going on, lightning um, or something broke, and then I'd have large blocks of time where I
Right
could
on.
learn how to code.
Yeah.
So I
Getting
did all
paid to
these
work while you're
Java
actually secretly
exercises.
learning is tight.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty awesome, or it was. But yeah, so that was when kind of programming started clicking a bit. Um, what I'm learning now is
Yeah.
nothing like it because it's not object oriented. It's functional. So
I see.
you're writing
Yeah.
modules and
Sort of like
functions instead of
basic.
classes.
I have a little bit of basic.
Oh, okay. All right.
Ah.
Oh, yeah. I don't have any basic experience,
Well, it
so I
sounds
didn't
like
realize
one.
that was a functional language.
It's
Um, yeah, and it could very well be. I don't know much about it. I'll do a little
possibly
digging
batch,
when we're
which I
off.
wouldn't actually count as like a programming language, but I've made things in batch.
Interesting. I would also say that what is it? There's a Microsoft
Excel.
program that everybody
I
uses
don't.
for
Excel uses
spreadsheets.
Visual
What is that?
Basic.
Yeah.
If you're writing uh,
Oh,
custom,
okay.
I guess they might be called modules or macros for that. I've never actually used
Hmm.
code in any of the spreadsheets, any of the context I've ever used. I do use an Excel clone, but I don't use anything like that for it.
Right, right.
That's a lie. I do at work,
Yeah,
but I've got nothing to do
I've
with
got
the
a friend
creation
that
of
was
it.
like, yeah. I've got a friend that he's a mad Excel user, writes functions and just all kinds of stuff. When I listen to him talk about Excel, he's like
Yeah,
programming.
no,
I'm like, dude, you're programming. He's like, no, no, I could never. I'm like,
but that's it. Yeah,
what are you talking about?
you know how.
You're doing it.
It's
You're in.
daunting. You don't want to admit that you know how because then
Exactly. You
immediately
know the
it's like
way.
real programmers will bust through your windows and be like, "You don't know what structs are." you don't know what arrays are. And you're like, no, I don't. I'm sorry.
Right. Exactly.
I just use spreadsheets. You casual.
I'm a spreadsheet
Battle
guy. Leave me
scarred
alone.
from their
Poser.
from their Python, not Python, from their COBOL and 1970s language ways.
Yeah, COBOL. Man. Now there's a language I haven't touched. I don't think I will
Pascal.
dabble in
That's
COBOL.
the one.
Although there was kind of a rash there for a little while of, yeah. I guess there was some some government websites that desperately needed updating, so everybody was like,
yeah.
"Ooh, we should just go learn COBOL. We could get a job in that." Like, yeah, I'm sure there's jobs, but I'm
My
probably
hard
not
cutoff
gonna do
time
that.
is approaching.
I'll pass. Yep. Okay, so I guess we'll just call it a day.
I wouldn't mind that at all.
Maybe we'll do another one of these
It's
soon.
great.
Sound like
It's relaxed, good
that'd be
environment,
fun.
good host.
That'd be a good time. Cool. All right. Oh, well, thank you. Good guest. Maybe next time you host
it can
me.
be done.
And we'll try it that way.
We might.
It could be done. I'll go through some more of your tutorials.
Sounds awesome.
And then
it won't
look
be a
at my
shitty
project.
It'll be one that you've envisioned that you may have questions about how to improve, and we will get through that.
Maybe. There we go. You could do
like
a
live
online. That'd be fun.
Let's learn, let's teach / learn sort of collaboration.
Yeah,
me
I like
crappily
that.
teaching somebody how to
that sounds
make
like
a Bakin game or an RPG in a box game. Yeah, that does sound like a lot of fun.
That does sound like fun. That'd be cool. I haven't. I've only been kind of picking at Bakin and mostly.
I know.
Your tutorial videos.
Layouts.
You need to make more
layouts
of those,
just got updated. Now I can finish. I can go through and completely redo. Thanks, Smile Boom. Completely redo my layouts tutorial, and that's the levy.
Oh, nice.
Once tutorials is out of my way, we go into eventing, and then I'm gonna have tutorials every flippin' day, probably for the next 6 years. But we'll get through eventing, and that largely I'll be done, except for like tutorial requests and like systems. Somebody said you should have a series where you're like, can this be made in Bakin? And then we look at a popular RPG mechanic like Pokemon or something, and I'm like, that's a great idea. That would take a long time to do each video, but maybe for live streams we can set a hard time of like 2 hours, and then I start the project and I immediately start talking about the concepts behind it, how it might be done. Somebody more knowledgeable can watch it and laugh, knowing that their superior intellect can come out with it faster and easier. Those who are on kind of my level can see where I'm going with it, take the ideas and use them, and let those evolve. And those people who had no idea that it could be done at all can maybe be struck with inspiration and wonder. Either way, it's a win-win-win. I can eat humble pie, and everybody can either learn or be entertained.
Nice. Yeah, that'll be fun, man. That sounds like a good time. I would definitely be on board with watching that.
Yes.
Or participating somehow if possible. All right, so this has been episode 15 of the Citizen Coder podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Drew.
Thanks for joining me, Ash.
See you. Bye-bye.
And we'll see you next time. You've been listening or watching episode 15 of the Citizen Coder podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with Ash, you can hit him up on Twitter or check out his YouTube channel. Link is in the show notes. If you like what I'm doing and you want to sponsor the show, you can reach out to me at info@citizencodercast.com or message me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Thanks for listening, and as always, I'll see you next time.